Hi, I'm Dr. Libby Kemkaran, and this is Tame Your Brain 13, and this is your daily dose of 10 minutes of positivity to help calm the circuits in your brain so that you can be happier in this time of crazy. We are focusing today on what I said yesterday, which is that when we live in these fight or flight behaviours, we can't feel good, we can't relax into it, we're not supposed to. It's a survival mechanism, it's there for a reason. So it doesn't help us to get out of anything because that's how we're wired. So when we talk about the fight or flights, what we need to remember is it's supposed to be short term, and at the moment it's not short term, it's very much long term. And the world is changing again. I think you might have noticed a very obvious drip feed into the press today of, okay everybody, let's just go back to work, and have a think about how that makes you feel, because if it's increasing your anxiety levels to think about going back when we know there's still live cases coming in every day and thousands of them, what do we do with that anxiety? Where do we go with it? So I'll be talking about that today, and we'll be talking about a plan of how we deal with stress. So let's get our fairy distractors out and we'll come up with a useful tool to focus on your planning for the next week, because we're going to have to think about planning, because with work picking up, what happens? We end up doing more. I saw a post today by the Samaritans where Piglet and Pooh were talking, and Pooh was saying, I just feel sad. Why am I so sad? I have it better than others. I've got a house, I've got a garden. Why am I feeling so rubbish? Good question, Pooh. And the answer comes back, it's not a competition. It's not a competition. It's not about who's feeling the most sad, who's feeling the most grief-stricken. There's no minimum requirement of sadness. There's no minimum requirement of anxiety to say, okay, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And have we got them all? Well done. So there's our 5 little stress busters right here. So where do we go with these feelings? And the answer came back, you don't need to think about maybe there are people worse off than you to feel validated. It means not getting sad enough so the sad gets trapped inside. So don't wait till you get to that agreed level of sad before you get help. And I've been getting some lovely feedback, and thank you, Claire. Nice to see you on here. Thanks for saying that this is helping, because my mission is to help people get out of this danger zone where they just feel they can't cope. And my mission is to try to connect with people in this time of massive disconnect, because when you feel you're in that danger zone and you can't cope and your brain is screaming, and so you're screaming at your kids, and then you're triggered and thinking you must be this terrible person. Well, you're not. You're just doing exactly what you're wired to do under this extreme stress. And those little flip outs that you're having, even if they're really big flip outs, even if they're the ones where you shout so loudly your throat hurts, those are explosions of stress relief, because your brain is waving a big red flag saying, I can't do this much longer, send help. And guess what, guys? We did this flipping out before a global pandemic, and we will do it after. So you know what? It's great you're here, and it's great we can figure out some pattern interrupts to get ready for you now, because we need to make sense of what's going on in our heads and what's happening in response to this world around us, and get back in the driving seat. Hang on, escaping kitten, come back in the room, over there, well done. So these little fur bundles, I'm putting them on screen for a reason. This is not an accident that I'm doing this, it's fortuitous that I had them. But what I'm trying to do is trigger your brain wiring in the very first instance with something that so isn't a global pandemic. Your brain can't hold the two thoughts simultaneously, so it forces you out of a pattern. We all get stuck in wiring that doesn't serve us, and sometimes we get stuck in a wiring that's just what our brain chooses to run in the moment. And as you know, I'm trying to connect with people in this time of disconnect, so please do keep sharing in the interest of helping others, because if it resonates with you, it just might help them too. It's as simple as that. So today's tool, when we stress, it's because we're being told by our brain to make a choice. The brain puts anxiety in there as a hardwired, quick pick one, because it's trying to make you force a hard choice between this or that, fight or flight. The trouble is, when we're given anxiety about a work situation, or now just about choosing whether to send our kids back to school, and you feel there's nothing you can do about it, well, where do we put that anxiety? I'm just going to show you a diagram. I think I briefly referenced this. It's a beautiful circle, it's beautiful. And this is the locus of control that, hi mama, that I referenced before. And there's you in the middle. And that is really all you can control. You have controlled what is possible for you to decide. The next circle around that, this outer layer, which Smudge is helpfully pointing out with his nose, is the next layer around us, which is just about what you can influence. So it's about what you can have some form of impact on. And that could be your kids, that could be your spouse, sometimes not. That could be your work colleagues, it could be your boss, or sometimes not. And then there's the area outside that, guys, which we can have no impact on. We have no control over that area outside. And we've got both Pingu and Mini Queenie demonstrating that beautifully for us today. So, hi Mama! So we need to choose where we are, and we need to decide where in that diagram the decisions we're facing are. There's plenty of people you can influence around you, but they can still say no, they can still turn you down. But the choice is what you do about it. I look at that circle outside of my control and I make a choice to do something, do anything, just don't do nothing. So for example, I took all 3 of my girls on the march for the NHS in 2018, protesting against all the cuts to the NHS, because you do something, don't do nothing. You don't have to do everything, is how I stay sane, because you cannot control it. And I will never, and anyone who knows me, I'll never sit quietly watching, but I won't also take on the cares of the world onto my own shoulders, because it just drives you nuts. So this tool is really useful, because the first question you have to ask yourself is, where does this problem sit? Which circle is it in? And then, who owns it? Is it mine, or is it just my reaction to it that I own? And then you can get clarity. And that, guys, is the first step of my fantastical Tame Your Brain program, which is where you really find out what is the true terrain under your feet, what is under your shoes, and not just what's in your head. Because the map in your head is never the terrain. And what's under your feet may be very different than the fears in your head, so you've got to get real. And remember, guys, the theme for this week is loosely goal setting, because it all starts with, well, where am I right now? And then where do I want to get to? And then in terms of what do I do next, what happens next? What's the next physical step that I've got to make to move myself closer to my goals and further from this reality of where I'm sitting right now? So that's our frame up for this piece that we're moving into now. I'm going to do a slightly longer piece tomorrow, and I'm going to be focusing on something which I know might be important to all of you, and that is how our kids are behaving. Because as well as us, when we look at who we can control and who we are in charge of, a lot of the time that does translate directly to who are our babies, what are they up to. And I always keep these under 10 minutes for a reason, by the way, guys. I'm going to go a little bit longer tomorrow, but I know how busy you are, I know how nuts it feels right now, and I know that you're feeling all the feelings, and I'm hearing so many people are working, especially those for big corporates, longer hours, and companies are expecting so much more from you than is perhaps reasonable when you consider we're not working from home. We're staying at home because of a global crisis, and we're also trying to homeschool and not go nuts. So I'm hearing average reports, I think, are excess of 3 hours per day, which when you add that up over the week, that in itself is enough reason to go a bit nuts. It's crazy and it's unsustainable, so please take a break. It's great you're here today. Do share it, do give it to other people if it resonates with you. And if you haven't seen the other videos in this series, go back to my webpage, kittens.com. They're all under the YouTube link there, and you can watch from the start if you feel so moved, and share any that resonate with you, because there might be one little nugget of information that you go, actually, yeah, I need to know that. And come back to these targeted 10 minutes of oxytocin, because it gets the oxytocin flowing, which defeats the adrenaline, which is the whole purpose of this. It makes you feel more in control and a little bit less crazy. And please, guys, do message me. I'm loving all the feedback I'm getting. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I'm building up to this Tame Your Kids segment tomorrow, so message me about that. What behaviours do you specifically want help with? And I'll be delighted to write it accordingly and sort of script specifically for the challenges that I know some of you are having. So that's our lot for today. Thanks for coming along, and stay well, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.